Hey there guys, welcome to my channel. So as promised before, I said I would record a second benchmark video once I got my new kit, because my RAM was bottlenecking on ultra settings, a quad HD. So now I have 32 gigabytes of RAM, and the results are substantially better in a sense that performance itself, like frame wise, I haven't really gotten more frames, so it's not like, oh, I got a frame boost or anything, but it doesn't stutter anymore when I'm approaching like a big city and stuff. So that's a plus, which I noticed like right off the bat as soon as I loaded the game for the first time with the new RAM kit, that is. And I've noticed that it just doesn't stutter anymore once you're flying into like big cities like Tokyo, Seattle and stuff. It just doesn't, you know, which is amazing. As you can see, it's using 17 gigabytes of RAM right now, which is more than I had before. So yeah, as you can tell, if you're running ultra settings, a 16 is just not enough. I mean, you can do with 16, but it's gonna be stuttery as heck. It's gonna run, but like the first 5 minutes once you load into the airport and stuff, your computer is just gonna cry for a bit. You're gonna have like massive drops down to like 1 FPS until it settles and flushes all the RAM that it needs to flush, and then it's gonna run normally again, but that's after 5 or so minutes so that it can settle. And with 32 that doesn't happen because it has all the RAM it needs to load all the scenery and stuff. So it's currently using 17. As you can see, frame figures are about the same as before. If you guys remember from my first video, it's still the same shit. That didn't really change that much on that regard, but it doesn't stutter. So that's what I noticed right at the bat. So settings, let's check the graphics settings. As you can see, it's still basically the settings I was using on my performance video that I figured out would work fine with 16. I assume I could go all the way back to 200 again and I wouldn't have issues anymore, like RAM bottleneck issues, because now I have more than enough. But I'm still running the optimized settings for 16 at the moment, just for comparison, just for the sake of comparing how it runs. We're out here in Renton, near Seattle, and as you can see, no stutters whatsoever. So I'm gonna start the plane up, I'm gonna taxi to the runway and take off and check how it runs. Essentially, that's the plan. So let's get it started up. Not gonna bother with pushback, just gonna turn the plane and get off. Not the most realistic thing, but we're talking about saving time, so yeah. Let me just make sure, yeah, controller works fine now. My profile was messed up yesterday for some reason. It like reset, but now after a second restart it just works. Go figure. Okay, so let's get the parking brake off. We're gonna start moving ever so slightly. Oh, never mind, it doesn't want to move, does it? Let's go. Hell yeah. Okay, and we're off. Are we though? Yeah, we're off. Okay, a little bit too much power. That's not a plan. But yeah, as you can see, it's locked at 35. That's a lot different from before, when if I was in the same airport, same situation, we would have the RAM sitting at 15.9 and the frames would have been crazy, dropping down to low 10s, even worse. But here it's solid. It doesn't stutter that much anymore. The PC just vibes, which is a great thing, and definitely worth the upgrade if you're considering getting 32 gigabytes of RAM. Just go for it because it's really worth it in terms of how stable it becomes. If you want to do ultra settings, that is, you don't need 32 for flight sim itself. It's only if you want to run it on ultra settings, then yes, you're gonna need that. But if you don't plan on going extra fancy ultra settings, you don't really have to do any of that. So that's just up to you. I just felt like, you know, I wanted to play on ultra settings because the graphics card can take it. It's just the RAM that wasn't being able to take it. So once I got the 32 gigabytes of RAM, now I can finally enjoy some ultra settings flight sim, and holy cow, is it great. Runs so much better than before. And let's go to take off. Oh shoot. Oh my god. Okay, this is not working out. My hands are shaking a tad. I forgot the flaps. Oh, I didn't. Just, yeah, I cannot see much right now. But considering it's near Seattle, I mean, it's Renton, it should be demanding as heck. And frames are far from optimal, but that's on my graphics card, not on the RAM anymore. It's just my computer not being able to tackle it. But well, it's still fairly playable. As you can see, it doesn't really stutter. It's 26, but it's stable 26. Look at that. Sit. Renton down below. Amazing. Let's get off the bad weather, get a little higher. I should cut the throttles a little bit. Cut the throttle, I mean not the throttles, Jesus Christ. Either way, let's keep going. I'm very satisfied with the performance, gotta say. Like extremely satisfied. Considering it's ultra settings and we're flying over photogrammetries on, like that's quite impressive. Look at it. RAM usage is insanely high, as you can tell. So yeah, 16 is just not enough for ultra settings. You can get away with it, but it's just not a very nice experience. It's not as fluid as it would have been with 32, you know. So yeah, if you're considering upgrading to enjoy flight sim, just go for it because it's worth it. It's like substantially more stable. So yeah, it doesn't really get you more frames. I would be lying if I said I got more frames. That would be bullshit straight up. But it's fairly more stable now. So I don't see the drops I would have before upon loading. So it would take like 5 minutes to settle, and the frames then would get back to normal. And that would happen during approach as well, of flying into a big city like Orlando, New York. So for the first, like, you know, when you're getting closer and closer to the city, it would just drop down to 5 FPS for a little bit, but that little bit's long enough to just break your whole enjoyment, ruin the immersion. So, you know, you don't want that happening. You want to fly into the airport, and, you know, if the frames are gonna drop, just like something around the ballpark of like 5 frames stops, because once it goes like under 20 FPS, that's painful, you know, it just ruins the whole thing. So as long as it doesn't drop that much, and that's what getting 32 gigabytes of RAM does with Flight Sim. It's not like you're gonna get more frames, that would be bullshit, but it just makes it very stable. So like, it doesn't drop anymore once you're flying into big cities. It just will stop happening, because you have enough RAM to just load up the buildings and stuff. So once it's buffering the photogrammetry or the satellite stuff in general, when there's no photogrammetry available, it just doesn't stutter anymore. So yeah, I was worried that would be the case. I mean, no frame rate increase whatsoever, but more stability, and that's what I found. And pretty much matches what I've seen on many benchmarks on YouTube, that it doesn't really increase the frames. If anything, if it's going to increase, it's going to be by 1 or 2 FPS, but you get that crisp stability that we all always look for when we're flight simming, because nothing hurts more than being on final and then your frame suddenly drop to like 5 FPS. And you just sit there waiting for it to get back to normal. It just ruins it for you. But now, nope. It's just crisp. It does drop. Of course it does drop. Because it's a very demanding game. We're talking about ultra settings and my card's just at 2070. I'm forcing it a little bit with Quad HD. That's far too much. I'm bidding more than I could chew. In that sense. Because it's still a mid-range card. But, yeah. I mean... It just, upgrading to 32 that just makes it possible to just run the game without major stutters. So we're looking at 40 FPS right now, which is quite impressive considering the resolution and the card. Temperature is not so impressive, but then again that's down to my airflow and not, it has nothing to do with anything. But yeah, so... that's about it for the video. It's not really, we're not gonna do a full fly or anything. It's just to show that yes, 32 does the trick when it comes to overall stability. And I've chosen Renton because it's a photogrammetry zone. It's one of the more demanding areas of the game. So if you want to benchmark and bring your PC down to its knees, that's where you should go. Renton, Seattle, you know, LA, San Fran. That's where your PC actually cries and begs for pardon. So yeah, and the fact that he just tackles it nicely, no stuttering whatsoever, other than, you know, back when we were taking off, they dropped down to like 25, but still it's 25, it's not 5 like it would have been with 16. So yeah, I would say 32 is mandatory for ultra settings, and I hope you guys enjoy the video. It took a little longer than it should have taken, I know, but that's due to the slow ass shipping, the corona and stuff, you know, it just slowed things down substantially. It took a little longer than it should have taken, but hey, finally got my hands on it. Had a couple issues with XMP and my computer just straight up refusing to turn on from a code boot. Nothing that reset CMOS doesn't fix, you know. So yeah, we're back in action now. Expect more flight sim videos, maybe full flights, maybe FS economy, who knows. Maybe I could even tackle some airliners. The A320 with the community patch, who knows. But yeah, just to let you guys know that I'm finally back into flight simming, and things are about to get hot, quite literally, as you can see there. But yeah, comment sections right down below. Feel free to leave your feedback, subscribe if you wish, like or dislike, it's up to you. Have a good day or night, stay safe, wear masks, and that's about it. Sayonara.